If you want an adventure, you could climb a mountain! Or ride dune buggies through the desert! Or you could just head to your neighborhood Zaxby's. Introducing the Smokehouse Cheddar Barbecue and Southwest Chipotle Filet Sandwich Meals. They're brand new and they'll take your taste buds to wild and exciting new places. Both feature our famous hand-breaded chicken, and they're both available for a limited time. Only at your neighborhood Zaxby's. And don't miss Jumanji: The Next Level, only in theaters.
From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan. He is Corey. We're here in the Midtown offices, Tallahassee, Florida. We work for Warchant.com. We got a great promo going on right now. It's for Miami Week. What would you call a promo if you had to come up with one during Miami Week, Corey? Like, what would you name it?
You put me on the spot there.
Ooh, it's just Beat Miami. Beat Miami.
Beat Miami, that's a pretty good one, yeah.
MF or FM? FFM?
Just right.
Ooh.
Just right. As opposed to wide right. Just right.
I don't know.
I know that kind of brings up bad
it's
memories,
still
too. All right,
bad triggers.
too soon.
Bad
I
triggers.
got you.
Beat Miami, a good trigger. 25% off an annual membership, and you get a $25 e-card to Garnet and Gold, and an additional free 3 months on top of it. So 15 months, 25% off the yearly rate, and then a $25 gift card to Garnet and Gold. Get yourself a, I don't know, put a down payment on one of the Nike polos, and then maybe you can finance it out.
Mm-hmm.
By Christmas time, maybe have it paid off.
Sure.
Maybe you need some rain gear. Maybe you need some cold weather gear. Apparently, if you're not going to be here Saturday, folks, I don't know what you're waiting. I don't know why you wouldn't be here. It's the biggest game of Willie Taggart's career as a head football coach. Maybe even more important than that Syracuse game back in 15 or whatever it was when he kind of salvaged his career.
Whether you even think
Beautiful
that he deserves your support or not, or whether you even think he's a good coach or not, the program deserves your support. The players need you there. Show up. Go be loud.
Turn up.
They even turn up in Miami once every 2 years for the Florida State game. That you guys can come. I know the tickets aren't, really. They're not.
They're affordable.
They're affordable. It's the supply and demand concept there. So go get you some tickets and go watch a Florida State Miami game.
And when you're in town, get up on a Friday, hang out with us at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill off Appalachia Parkway. Jeff Cameron will be doing his daily award-winning show from 3 to 6 p.m. out there. And then from 6 to 7, there'll be a bit of a meet and greet with, I guess, myself and Corey and some of the Warchant folks. We'll give away some T-shirts. Bring your mobile device. Prove to us that you are a paying member of Warchant.com. You'll get a free T-shirt. I don't know if it's going to be
And it's casino night, too, and it supports William Floyd's charity.
Well, I was getting there.
Oh, sorry, buddy. My fault.
Go ahead. Tell
I don't know. That's all I know.
Tell everybody about
That's
it.
all I know.
7 from 7 to 11 will be the aforementioned casino night that Corey just referenced, with the proceeds benefiting the Bar None Foundation, helping out underserved, underprivileged children. And, so it's a casino night. You'll gamble with funny money, and then that funny money will be able to buy, or purchase actual prizes and things of that nature. But you have to actually give us real American currency, preferably American currency, to have the funny
It's like
money
going to an arcade or a fun station or something, and you pay to play skee ball, and then you take the tickets and get something with your tickets.
Perfect metaphor.
That's what I try to do, man. That's what I try to do. I rack up on the Papa Shot.
Yeah, we've heard the
Daddy,
story.
Daddy strikes gold on those
Hustled
things.
somebody at a trivia night on a tiebreaker one time, folks.
I sure did.
I guess we can try this.
Yeah,
sure.
we'll see. I haven't done it in a while. Oh,
Bang.
How'd that feel?
Mike Breen, bang. And as always, as we said, the show is brought to you by our friends at Zaxby's. Check them out. We'll have the T-shirts to give away at the casino night. Some of them will have the Zaxby's logo with Corey's beautiful mug and my all right face on it. And on the Over-Unders Friday, you can win the T-shirt. You can win the free food as well. Also, I think a bunch of people that won. One guy, I'm like, give me your mailing address. He gave me his email address, so that's going to be a problem. And then I think somebody replied to me about the T-shirt and didn't give me their size, so I'll have to follow up. But that's good. I think of the 5 people that won 4 already got back to me, so it's good.
Okay, good.
It's good.
All right, good.
My
It's
day
good
is
communication.
My day is looking up after a very dreary Tuesday. It was raining. Thankfully, we God rest his soul, Al Dunlap stepping up to the plate, building an indoor practice facility, allowing us to dodge the elements as we do our job, our diligent job, covering your guys' favorite football team, or maybe your least favorite football team. I'm sure we have a lot of Miami folks hate listening to us.
Probably not that many, I wouldn't think. Do they really care that much about their team? They care on Saturdays.
Yeah, well, there's some comments in there every now and then. Speaking of Miami, we should have an interview second half of the show with Noah Mendell with CaneSport, part-time contributor down there. Give us some thoughts on it. He's a Florida State alum, so I'll try to also, kind of pick his brain on what he thinks about what's going on up here in Tallahassee as well. But Tuesday, spoke to the offense, Kendall and the offensive players. I thought this was probably the most revealing, perhaps, Q&A that we've had with any coach all year long with Kendall. You turned up and second half of the interview and asked some good questions, I feel like, that got some of the more interesting replies. I think before you arrived, we asked him about Hornibrook. Somebody asked him about Hornibrook. I think there was two things that really he said that kind of caught my ear that I was like, wow. There was no even remote, I don't know, like hiccup or any. He was asked about like what he thought Alex did on Saturday, and it was just like, he just jumped right into it. It was like, yeah, did a really good job, protecting the ball, making good decisions, and it was like, whoa. Not that he ever dogged James, but it was just kind of one of those things where, yeah, James did pretty good. A couple things out there left out there, but did pretty good. Happy with what he did. Both Alex, it was kind of like it was a very not enthusiastic or over the top thing, but it's just a subtlety when you talk to a guy for the last 10 weeks in a row, and you've asked him pretty much the same questions, and the answer gets a little bit of a differentiator, like it kind of perks up a little bit. You're like, well, there's something there, I think. I think people out there might have floated some sort of concept where, Willie was leaning James and Kendall might have been leaning Alex, and, however we got here. But at some point, maybe there was a slight differing of opinions. Nothing dramatic, but that response kind of sounded like he was very happy with what he got from the quarterback spot.
Yeah,
it wasn't all that great of a game. Statistically,
no, and I was
going to
say, I don't think he's very happy. I think he's content. Okay. There's just throws he can't make, man. There's stuff left out there that he can't, both of them have faults. Both of them have pretty severe deficiencies. Hornibrook just, a good throw to Terry on the slant goes a touchdown, a walk-in touchdown. I think he had another one across the middle where he's late. The throw to DJ, we talked about this on headlines, where DJ made the great catch by the sideline.
He dove in.
A better throw. And maybe he doesn't score, but he catches it with nobody near him. He can turn up and maybe make something happen. Those are the things you're working with at Alex Hornibrook. But the good thing is he threw it to him. He did get 25 yards or whatever it was on that play. But, yeah, I just think they're making the most. Briles is like, okay, well, just give me the less bad option. In his mind, I'm saying. I'm not saying Hornibrook is better than Blackman. But in his mind, obviously, he thinks that Hornibrook gives him the best chance to win for whatever he's seen. We've seen some of it too. But for whatever he's seen, he thinks that Hornibrook gives him the best chance to win. I'm really interested in this game. And again, I don't mean to pimp headlines, but we talked about it a good bit. Jeff doesn't think they can move the ball with Hornibrook against Miami because he thinks they're going to walk up everybody and say, try to beat us deep. You can't, because you can't. And if you have to throw in this 20-yard window, that's the only thing we have to worry about. And we can put all 11 in this 20, 25-yard window. And not be scared you're going over the top of us, then it's going to be really hard to move the ball. And so his philosophy is really do wild cam at least 50% of the time, which might be the case. Might be the case in this one. But I do wonder if you're not going to do wild cam the whole game. He would be exhausted. You just can't run. The kid can't run 70 times. But if you do go have 3 or 4 series where Hornibrook doesn't do well and he's getting crushed because they know they can blitz, knowing that it can't be taken advantage of necessarily going down the field. Do you go to Blackman? Because the one thing Blackman theoretically has an advantage in is throwing downfield. The problem is, and I wrote this, we wrote that, Hornibrook, we went back, Ira actually, it was his idea. He went to Pro Football Focus and looked at their grades against the blitz. Mm-hmm. And this year, Blackman is, I think, 30.1 against the blitz. He's been awful. Mm-hmm. And Hornibrook is 70.7.
Oh, wow.
It's a huge difference.
Wow.
Now, smaller sample size, but a huge difference. Oh, yeah. And also, crazily, in throws downfield, like 20 yards or more, where the ball is airborne over 20 yards, Blackman's 5 of 28 this season.
Yeah, he left his arm in Raleigh last year. Like the beautiful deep ball that we saw
Yeah,
a
he
glimpse
hit
of
all
in
those
17
throws, yeah.
and last year against NC State, it just has not been. I mean, since the Boise game, it just kind of failed him. It's kind of betrayed him.
Yeah, so he's 5 of 28 throwing the ball downfield. So if he's not giving you that,
Right.
and he's not really reading the blitz real well either, then what is the harm in going to the other guy? Because the one thing he should be able to do, you would think with the big arm, the kid that gets blitzed can beat you up top, or just can beat you up top in general, whether he's under pressure or not. But he hasn't done that. And if he's not taking advantage of his biggest advantage in this quarterback race, then, I get playing Hornibrook. But I do think in this game, perhaps, the number one thing is don't turn the ball over. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's going to be hard for Miami to score unless you give them the ball at your 25. But that happens. They create turnovers. That's how they beat Pitt. But number one is don't turn the ball over. But number two, you gotta make some plays. You gotta make some plays, and can Blackman see it? Can he avoid pressure? Does he give you a better chance against this team than any other team? Like maybe at Hornibrook is, and I've said this kind of all year. Like it should be matchups almost. Like I don't think either one of these are good enough to say, okay, that's my starting quarterback against every defense. It's like if you're playing the Syracuse 2-3 zone. Well,
Right.
maybe you want to start, MJ Walker, Vassell, and the Jack kid, or PJ Savoy
Some shooters,
against the
a
zone.
little
You want
versatility.
shooters so you can exploit the zone. Well, maybe against the Syracuse defense, Hornibrook made more sense. But against Miami, that's going to play physical, going to play man to man, and dare you to beat him downfield. Maybe if things don't work out with Hornibrook, you give Blackman a look. What do you think?
I think that's
Am I thinking
really
too much?
I think it's a really well reasoned argument, but I think it's over for him, man. I mean,
Yeah, could be.
I just don't. I mean, period. Almost at this point, I don't know how you even really come back next year if you're James Blackman. Not to get too over dramatic about it, but I just feel like they stuck with him in that Wake Forest game. They gave it to him the entire way, and he didn't deliver for them. He got a couple drops.
Do you think
didn't help
that
him out.
fumble was like it? I know they
Right.
recovered it, but just that fumble late in the game with 40 seconds left, where you still have a chance, a legitimate chance to at least get in field goal range, and the kid just drops it. Do you think that was like their final straw? Is like I can't do this anymore with him. Not that it's all his fault.
Yeah.
He made some winning plays, but do you think maybe that was it for them?
Yeah, that's probably a good way to look at it. Yeah. I think they'll let it ride out with Alex, and if he struggles, I don't know. Yeah, James comes in, they're going to probably still attack, and then maybe he can make him pay for a ball. But at this point, man, we haven't seen anything from him this season to that deep ball
Right.
that some of us kind of fell in love with in 17 as a true freshman. Like, wow, look at this kid. Give him some time. He'll do
Dan
something
last
special.
year in his
And
only game, he
then
threw for
NC State
400-some
looked
yards.
Beautiful. I mean, that's some of the throws he had to Terry were just absolutely picture perfect, but it just hasn't been there this year for whatever reason.
Yeah,
so.
5 of 28 for 1 touchdown or 2 touchdowns maybe. It's been ugly trying to throw it downfield. And if you're going to be an intermediate to quick passing game, well, it really doesn't do you much good to have a huge arm.
Right. And I think maybe Alex actually has a little quicker of a release, so maybe that,
I do think that.
takes a little bit of
I
longer
think he has a
windup.
quicker release, and he maybe throws a more catchable ball because it's not coming quite as hard.
Right. It's kind of like
He's throwing change-ups.
toss with your old man back there. Yeah, I mean, I probably share most of Jeff's sort of trepidation too.
So what do you think? What do you think they ran 13 wildcat plays. What do you think they'll do against Miami? Double that, triple that? For real.
I would set the over under like 24.5 or something.
I mean, that's a lot of plays.
Actually is. Yeah, Jeff said the same thing on the Warchant report, which will be coming out later this week. But he's of the belief again, like you said, what he was saying on the headlines, that like they have to go heavy to Cam, and I know Cam is a whole different weapon back there than just any other running back because he can legitimately throw the ball well. I just don't know how much of that is going to be as successful this time around because, I mean, not only will Miami be prepared for it to a certain degree, but just better athletes, man. I mean, better coach defense, better players. Their front is not going to have nearly the problem that Syracuse had trying to just, at least just get a hat on a hat and try to get back there and get after Cam. So I don't even know if it's going to – that's the thing. I don't know if it'll be even as effective. Even if so, I mean, they can run it 20, 30 times. I don't think it'll be nearly as effective as it was against Syracuse.
I don't think it'll be as effective just straight up rushing the ball. I think they average probably 8 or 9 yards a carry out of that thing, or probably 6 yards per carry, 6.5 yards per carry out of that thing. But if he does a couple RPOs and throws the P into it quickly,
right?
because they won't expect that at all. Like
Just
as
some
soon
options, like some literal like option run stuff, just sprint option stuff.
Yeah,
where
just
it's
roll him out
from him and Leyburn, and
if
you
you
can pitch or
if you
keep
can
it.
do some of that stuff early to let them understand that this isn't just a, I mean it is, but it's not just solely a running back playing quarterback. This guy can make some throws downfield. Then maybe that opens it up enough that you can get the running game going like that. But I don't know. We say that it won't work well, and it definitely won't work as well as it did against Syracuse. I mean, it was 13 plays for 111 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 2-point conversion. But can they move the ball traditionally against a very good defense?
Yeah.
Because Clemson was they had no chance, and this is the closest thing to Clemson they faced before or since. So Clemson, I think they had 70 yards at half. So if you just want to put Hornibrook back there and run your normal offense, can you do it? And do you give it maybe a couple of series and then say, nope, we're just going to QB3?
Right. Yeah, man, that's I was hoping Kendall would maybe give us a little bit more kind of context as to what the difference is between Miami and Clemson, but you just said that they are different. Doesn't like to compare them. Part of it, going to Clemson, playing them at, in Death Valley. They're coming off a bye week. I know you're coming off a bye week as well. They had a whole week of, hearing about their rumors of their demise, and they dropped down the polls. So, I mean, that was not a good sort of matchup for Florida State. LSU is going to get a bit of it, I feel like, next week in Tuscaloosa with them jumping Alabama. I'm sure Alabama's going to hear a whole week of they're done and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if you're at home, so I don't think it'll be as overwhelming of a challenge. It's going to be challenging as hell. But yeah, I mean, my fear is just I can just see Guy just getting home to Hornibrook just clean and just clocking him, and then like can he hold on to the ball enough? I mean, but then I was telling that to Ira, and I was like, well, if there's one thing he's proven is that he can actually hold on to the ball when he is getting sacked. It's like that's true. James, when he would get hit, usually you get destroyed and he'd hold on to it, and then he would get kind of tapped, and you're like, why did that make you fumble? That's crazy. I think it's going to be a really entertaining game. It's not going to be like a beautiful defensive struggle the way the national media would kind of paint 12-9 LSU Alabama, but I think it'll be like a 24-20-ish game, and yeah, it's going to come down to the fourth quarter and like who can do the best with those last few possessions. But yeah, to run that traditional kind of offense. No, but I do think they have enough wrinkles probably that they haven't. Not even so much Cam, but I think there's some stuff I'm sure that Kendall's had saved for this game. Just, I don't know, maybe like a trick play or two that could be the difference.
Yeah, sure.
Ironically enough. But yeah, I mean, I do worry about that whole fact of like, listen, we don't have to worry about anything between the boundary and the numbers with this guy that's going to be beyond 5 yards. I mean, now it's going to be tough for him to complete against Miami, I think, athletically.
Yep.
Like, make him be Drew Weatherford. Like, give him only stuff between the hash, like from the first yard stick to the line of scrimmage in the middle of the field. Because when he has to make those throws, and he's had a couple balls that got tipped. Wasn't there a ball that got tipped in the air and it was up in the air for like 10 seconds? It seemed like Miami will pick that off. The whole turnover chain mentality they have, just them being more fast and aggressive as a defense. Just the things that Alex has kind of lucked out on and it hasn't bit him in the butt, stuff that did bite James. I think like the chickens will come to roost if those plays are made this time around. Like if he's inaccurate on a throw that's behind a guy and it gets tipped, it's not going to just fall to the ground. I feel like it'll find a way to find itself into Miami football hands.
What'd you think about DJ's answer?
I didn't.
When he was for the people that don't know, he was asked. I'm trying to get.
I can play it.
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're going to play it.
Yeah.
What's challenging about their DBs? Nothing.
Oh, no. I mean,
FSU Miami's back, baby. It's back.
Oh man. Gosh, go watch the video on our Warchant account. It's like at the 2:30 mark, a little bit before, like put it to 2:25 mark. Everybody, if you want, so you can actually see his like disgusted reaction.
Disdain, yeah. And then he like turns his head from the question. You didn't want to answer it. Which is fine, man. I'm all for kids saying how they feel. I don't like them being censored. I hate where college football has gone when it comes to that. But back it up. Mm-hmm. Back it up, man. You know what you're saying. You're not a freshman. This isn't the third time you've been interviewed in your life. You know that this is going to get out. You know what you're doing. And it's your choice. Disrespect them all you want. That's fine. I'm cool with it. Durden did it last week about Syracuse. And then got on Twitter and,
did you do a victory lap?
Bathed in glory for calling it like he saw it. But back it up, man. Don't go out there and have one catch for 11 yards. Go out there and make some plays because you will get a chance to make plays. You're gonna get the one thing 12 will do is get you the ball in space with a chance to make a play. Typically, now it'll be closer to the line of scrimmage than you might like. So go make plays, man. That's cool. And then take a victory lap after you win.
Oh man, yeah. Well, they're like down to 5 like scholarship receivers right now. I feel like or something like that. So yeah, he definitely will get the opportunities to make plays. But yeah, man. And I won't hold it against you, DJ, if you have a bad game. But you can't fumble. You can't do something really bad. If you have like 3 catches for 40 yards, I'm not going to dog you. But like if you get stripped,
or you drop one, drop a big one, or you don't go catch a punt.
Yeah. Well, actually, the punt shouldn't be held against them because that's not their defensive backs, unless it's maybe a gunner coming down and it's a defensive back.
Sure.
Because at that point, they really won't present.
Yeah, he wasn't asked what challenges the Miami Gunners presented.
Yeah. And then the other thing that Kendall said that I thought was interesting, really revealing, I think you kind of asked him about what Andrew Baselli, what he did, his thoughts, how much he's grown since they've been able to get their hands on him, and he mentioned, hey, he was here before we got here, and you're like, yeah, I know. But I mean, it's crazy. He joked that he didn't even know the kid's name. That's how
because he was
off the radar he was. And then now he's earned a scholarship over the summer, and the fact that he said what he said, I can play the clip.
He's a lot better. I mean, it took me a while to learn his name because he wasn't very good, and then he got in fall camp and started doing some good things, and he had a good summer and got put on scholarship, and we needed a change. We needed somebody who would get out there and fight and play well for us. So he did. He played well.
That to me, and we needed a change.
Mm-hmm.
We needed someone that would go out there and fight. That's about as strong of a endorsement. I don't want to say indictment on the other guy, but an endorsement of a player getting put into a position. And I mentioned, and you thought I was like attacking you afterwards. I was like, well, that would have been good to have a follow up question on him just about, because I do wonder so many times, fans. I think, fans saw what they saw from James Blackman and were like, why not? Just put freaking Hornibrook out there. What's the worst that could happen? Fans everywhere across the country say that about every single team.
Just like we did last year about Blackman and Francois.
Yeah, it's just try it, man. And if your offensive line continues to allow pressure, continues to fail to get, ample push, why not try the other guy? Now, the thing is they see these kids practice for 2 hours a day, 3 days a week, and there's certain guys, they just can't trust him. They're like, hey, he doesn't know the play. He doesn't know the protection well. He's not going to hold up well against the point of attack. And people are like, well, just try. What else? What's the worst thing that can happen? And a lot of times maybe the worst thing really doesn't happen all that often, and things like this happen. And you get a guy that might be a bit of an upgrade over what you had previously. I thought that was the thing that really, really caught my attention today, or on Tuesday, was the way he kind of talked about what they had and what they have now, maybe with Andrew Baselli.
And he said he's like he was exactly what we thought he was. Looking back at the game film, he is what we thought he was, doing his own Denny Green impression. But he's not going to overwhelm you with his size and strength and athleticism. But if he gets them up to the line quick, and if he gets the calls quick, and they can go quicker or whatever pace they need to, and he's making the right checks and the right calls, although they don't do a ton of that because they go so quick, then yeah, it's worth maybe what you lose in brute strength at the center position to have somebody that knows what all 5 guys are supposed to be doing. That's not to say that Babion is a dumb guy or couldn't get it done, but they liked what they saw in Baselli as far as that goes, as far as the way he communicated with the other linemen that Big Baby wasn't doing. And you have to imagine it's probably a nice cheat sheet to have a dad that was an offensive lineman your whole life. So you know how to play the position. You know how to play all the positions. You know what it's supposed to look like. So in that regard, sure, we'll see how he does against these guys. Right. Because these guys are a whole different animal. And if he can hold up physically and not just get tossed around, then I think he's your starter for maybe the rest of his career. Certainly the rest of this year, I would think. But this is a huge test for him, man, because those guys are pretty big and pretty athletic and pretty mean in the middle of their defensive line, or just on their defensive line in general.
And then Bavion will go to Tuscaloosa and win the Remington Trophy.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. He'll turn into a house. He'll be 370 pounds and chiseled and running like a running back. And, yeah, the rest will be history.
That photo you tweeted of Landon was amazing.
Yeah, there's been 2 of them. Yeah. There's one I tweeted from like a month ago, and then that one is incredible. It's incredible. He looks like a villain in a superhero movie. Just arms as big as his legs. Just that wasn't the guy at all. He looks like a more athletic Minshew. Like Minshew looks like a guy that could be on the Alabama line, except no offense to my man, he might be a little sloppy, but he's a big, huge, humongous person.
Yeah.
And he's the only one really they have. Yeah. But Dickerson is like that, but can move a little bit better. Minshew's been a nice upgrade too. So it's a new look offensive line. And they did, they were averaging about 128, 129 yards per game rushing going into the Syracuse game, and they ran for 241 with that new offensive line, including Darius Washington. They ran for, I don't know, maybe 180 against Wake, 170 against Wake. I know Cam had 150. So they with these new guys, they seem to be doing a little better up front in the run game. But pass protection is where you really wonder. And you wonder how risky they're going to be knowing how this game can turn. Like, it's just going to be hard to score. You just can't give them points. Miami would have literally scored one time if Pitt hadn't given them points.
Yeah. So
you can't, on 3rd and 13 from your 22-yard line, I know that it's going to draw boos, but you got to run draws or quick passes. Or throw it as far as you can down the sideline so it's like a punt if they intercept it. You just can't take risks.
Yeah, that one game more than anything, right, is the indictment of Taggart's whole protect the football thing. I mean, if they protected the football last year at Hard Rock, they would have won the game.
Just run it 3 times in the line.
Yeah.
That's all, yeah. Make them go earn it, but you gave them 2 touchdowns where they got the ball at your 20, right?
Right.
With a 20-point lead. Yeah. There's no reason for him to be dropping back at all. At all.
See, I do wonder where the line is between realizing the reality of the situation, which is probably closer to that, and also not playing scared because
it is a line, but it's a huge game, man.
It is. But where has the tempo been? I feel like the tempo has not been nearly as much as we saw against Boise or I don't know, NC State or Louisville's good, but that Boise game and those first few drives were beautiful. It was all tempo and a big play off of it. Cam's touchdown run against Boise was a 4th down, and they weren't ready for it all, and boom, and then that sort of screen pass that got to Tamori, and it was he had a man on him, beat the guy on the short easy throw, and he was gone. Because that's the thing, right? When they go fast, good things seem to happen. But if you go fast and you can't move the ball, then you start maybe playing into Miami's hands a little bit. But again, if you don't turn the ball over and give Miami good field position, they're not gonna go on more than 2 touchdown drives. You wouldn't think if they got to go more than 65 yards.
You wouldn't think. It would be a very bad day for Harlan Barnett if Miami just moved up and down the field because they haven't done that against anyone. Yeah. Central Michigan, I think, held them to 16. So yeah, it's just a game overall. Not even getting into the nuts and bolts of what has to happen to win. You just gotta win, man. You gotta win. I think there's a chance, realistically, that if you win this game, you're gonna finish with 8 wins this season. Not the Florida game, but the bowl game. I think you get to 8 wins. I think you're 8-5, and that's a 3-game improvement on last season. And if you make the changes you need to make, perhaps on the defensive side of the ball, maybe there's a little more optimism heading into your 3rd season, even without, especially if you get the quarterback from Houston, or if you convince Cam to come back and just play quarterback his senior year. But so there is a chance for optimism that this is a big game, man. But if you lose this game, man, there's a chance you might not be here in 2020. And I know that sounds crazy to put it all in one game, but I'm thinking that if you lose to Miami, I'm not trusting you to go win on the road at Boston College. It shouldn't matter, but it will. It could. And then you're looking at another 5-7 season with an easier schedule. That's gonna be a really hard and 2 losses to your rivals again, including one that was 4-4 and is their first-year head coach. So, I'm not saying this is a big game, but it's an enormous game.
I was thinking about it earlier, because we talked about on the show this week about how important it is, and I'm almost uncomfortable by putting so much pressure on it because, so they beat Miami and they beat Boston College, beat Alabama State, lose by 3 scores to Florida, win a bowl game, and I'm supposed to feel good about this program.
No. See, that's just.
And I'm not. Okay. I'm not trying to be rude or flippant about it, but it just. You come to the point where you're like, okay, so this one game now is supposed to change the sort of narrative or the hope and the belief around the program. You're like, man, I don't want to do that. I remember the 16 previous games, and that stuff just can't be forgiven or hey, that's just part of the process that he brings to the table. But then I think about things of, with what he's had in terms of quarterback, and that's his fault too. You didn't get a prep quarterback. You didn't get a JUCO quarterback. last year to maybe have another option besides DeAndre. He stuck with DeAndre the whole time. They did go get a transfer in Alex Hornibrook. I don't know if they get Alex Hornibrook without Kendall Briles. And I start thinking about if they bring De'Aaron King, how good could they be next year? Imagine that. Like, what would their record be? And this is a crazy, probably almost stupid hypothetical. Like, what would their record be if they had Justin Fields? That's how
7-1?
That's how far away they are, but that's how close they are.
Yeah.
Like this is not a hapless, horrible.
I only say that. Yeah, one player shouldn't have a WAR of 3 in one college football season. WAR, wins above replacement, for the people that don't know. But in this instance, all three of your 4 losses were really 1 or 2 plays away, and I wouldn't think in any of those games you thought, man, James Blackman saved. He got them that close. Like, the only reason they were that close is because Blackman played out of his mind. No, he didn't in any of those games, especially in the second halves of those games. If you have Justin Fields out there in that offense, man, yeah, I think you're 7-1. I think you win. You might beat Boise by 40 effing points, legitimately. I do think there's a chance. So yeah, I mean, I never even thought about it like that because I was thinking about De'Aaron King. Like, what if King was the quarterback this year?
I think they're probably in the same boat. Like, and I shouldn't have used Justin Fields as such an extreme example, but like that's Willie's whole thing. To be like, hey man, we're going to be able to get this guy. So they go like 5-7 this year. If he's like, hey man, I got this kid on the line. Although I don't know if he's immediately eligible. He's redshirting right now, but I don't think that would count.
Well, he'd be a senior though. He's a grad.
He would be a grad transfer. Okay.
No, he couldn't he wouldn't be immediately eligible if he did. If he wasn't a senior, but I think he's going to be a senior. But yeah, that kid had 50 touchdowns last year in like 10 games with Briles. So yeah, your defense isn't going to be great next year either. It could be better or as good, whatever that means to you. But if the offense goes from pretty decent, whatever they're averaging, 30-something points a game, they've made a huge jump. I think they're averaging close to 100 yards more per game this season than they did last season. And you throw in a dynamic quarterback onto that, yeah, man, all of a sudden you're really hyped. You're hyped. You could be Oregon of a few years ago in the sense that, yeah, every game's going to be 48-44 or 48-38. It's going to be some track meets, but you have the skill to win some of those games. And I do think, man, I think if you had a dynamic quarterback, you're good. You're close enough in these games that a couple of special plays that get you 10 more points. Or I don't know what the difference between Fields or De'Aaron King and Blackman are points per game wise, but I'd guess 7.
Yeah.
To be
let's throw Alex Hornibrook in there as well. The difference between De'Aaron King and Alex Hornibrook.
7 to 10 points per game at least. I think, but I think that's conservative probably because of the way he can run.
Yeah.
Then you've won all 3 of those games. Yep. You beat Virginia, you beat Wake, and you've beaten Boise, and you're 7-1. That needs to be figured out. But will he get a chance if he's 5-7 again? Will anybody care? The only way, literally, I think the only way that people would, not that he could save his job, he still might come back even if they go 5-7, but the only way people would be even somewhat amped up and excited, and it would be dampened, the enthusiasm, would be if the King kid was coming.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to be excited about a true freshman that's not Jameis Winston. That kid came in 5-star, super duper, All-American. This kid isn't that. He's a good prospect.
Jeff Sims,
but he's not the belle of the ball. He's not the best quarterback in the country. So fans aren't going to be excited about that prospect nearly as much as they are a guy that scored 50 touchdowns the year before or the last year that he played.
Yeah, that's just the kind of the crazy reality of where we're at right now is that there's so much.
But will he come play for a 5-7 team? Why would you leave Houston to do that?
I mean, you pretty much redshirted because you're like, this team is going to go 5-7. I don't want to be part of it.
Yeah, and then you wouldn't go join a 5-7 team, and we're getting the cart way ahead of the horse when it comes to our.
But I'm just trying to say that this is me maybe talking out both sides of my mouth. Like I don't feel very optimistic about this program becoming a championship-winning program under Willie Taggart. But like if they would have had a good quarterback this year. I mean, then like, what are we talking about? We're sitting here talking about a 6-1 team, a 7-1 team going into Miami.
Yeah, the number 11 team in the country, probably.
And it's just kind of crazy. How much can you keep in mind? And then you start thinking about, well, these are all patches. To a certain degree, how much of this is foundational, actual program building? Because Kendall Briles is not staying here forever. And then you're going to be in the transfer market for how long? How many years are you going to be patching holes? Or is that just going to be Like, are we going to turn into Kansas State where we live off JUCO guys or
Well,
something?
I don't think that'll happen, but I do think the new reality in college football is it can be a lot of patchwork. I mean, who are the best teams in the country right now? Ohio State, LSU, Oklahoma. All three of those dudes have transfers.
Yeah.
So that's the new reality. It's crazy. It's crazy that they all have them, but they do. And like Fields and Burrows were there together, right? Or Burrows left because Fields was coming. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, no, they
what
weren't the
happened
same.
there.
Yeah, Burrow left before that, but he was there with Dwayne Haskins and stuff.
So man, you've got to build a foundation on the line of scrimmage. You're always going to get wide receivers. You're always going to get good enough skill position guys and good enough secondary guys. You got to get better on both lines of scrimmage. You got to get more depth, obviously, on the defense. And on offense, you just got to get better players. And, yeah, you can do whatever you can have a quarterback that just comes in and plays one season. And then you could raise the kid. I mean, that's what Oklahoma's been doing now. Or you could raise a kid up from Jeff Sims could play as a sophomore and be really good. And you don't need to hit the transfer market. But you got to get there. You got to get to 2020 and 2021. Yeah. In 2 straight 5-7 seasons, man, losing to Miami and Florida both years, Florida probably not great, and pretty badly each of those 2 seasons. That's a tough sell. There's no reason you shouldn't win this game. None. You're at home. They're not any good. They've got a very good defense. Their offense is awful. You're at home. It's their first year. Their coaches already said they're rebuilding. They barely beat Central Michigan. They lost to an awful Georgia Tech team. Go out there and win the game. Win the game. Win a game that matters. I know that's easy to say, but win a game that matters, man. Go win a game against a rival to feel good about yourself. And to have fans feeling good about this program again. And recruits. All of it. It all matters, man. If you go 4-5, if you're 4-6, 5-6 going into Florida, so you go 5-7, how are you selling that to recruits? But 8-5, that's marketable. Look at what we did. Look at the jump. Not only were we 8-5, Kevin, I'm in the living room right now. Kevin and Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. Not only were we 8-5, but if you go back and look at those games, 3 of those games, we're a play away from winning those games. We blew big leads because we don't have enough players like your son. But if we get your son and we get the kids that we're recruiting, those 8 wins turn into 10 or 11 wins real quick. Go back and watch the tape. Go on YouTube. We're one play away. We're 3 or 4 plays away this season from having 10 or 11 wins. That's where we're going, and you're going to be part of the resurgence. So sign. Also, there's going to be a bag outside your front door. Don't look at it until I leave. Don't pick it up and take it in the house until I leave. I don't know where it came from. I just saw when I was walking up your stoop, I saw this big bag right next to it. Kevin Johnson, by the way, the fictional Kevin Johnson is a 320-pound offensive tackle.
Very nice. I'm trying to plug this in so we don't run out of juice. There's a couple other questions I want to ask you, although we're going kind of long.
You think I'd be a good recruiter? I think I'd be a pretty good recruiter.
I'd be a great recruiter. I think you'd be Rivals.com superstar, man.
The problem would be flying. It's too much flying.
Right. Well, we get you a Madden Cruiser, Clark Cruiser.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I could FaceTime a lot, I assume.
Yeah, great. I want to ask you these 2 questions. Well, actually, I was going to ask a question, but the other thing I do think about is like, the inevitable to Florida, like how are we going to feel after that game is something that we kind of conveniently don't talk about. Although we chalk the game up as a loss, we don't talk about just the anger and the angst about what happens and what it feels like when you lose to Florida. Before we bring Noah Mendell on here to talk about Miami, I want to ask you a question. You can punt on this if you want. We can be totally done and I can bring him on. I don't want to make this like a feel-good segment, but is there, like, if you had to, like, if there's some, I don't know, if you had to pick a guy from Miami, like, is there ever, there have been so many good players they had in Miami, right?
Sure.
There's the whole Ray Lewis story that, last scholarship went to a tight end for Florida State that could have been Ray Lewis.
Yep.
Is there like a
and that class was already incredible, the 93 class. Yeah. If you add Ray Lewis to it, it's the best in the history of college football. Yeah.
Like, is there any player from Miami that you would have liked to have played at Florida State?
Just because they're awesome or because their personality?
A little bit of both.
I mean, I really liked Sean Taylor. Ed Reed.
Okay. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. That guy.
Yeah.
That guy was just an animal, man. Yeah. And it was his ball. When it was in the air, it was his ball. And you just he was like a better LaMarcus Joyner. And I think LaMarcus Joyner's really good. but in a more impactful LaMarcus Joyner.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I just wish you would have used a different maybe person, because now we're talking up Miami players, and you had to knock on the floor saying.
I feel like people, but I mean, but in the sense that what LaMarcus's personality and leadership did for that program, I think you could throw Terrence Brooks in there, Telvin, those kind of guys. I just think Ed Reed was all that plus a Hall of Famer. He had that personality, that mindset, that leadership. But those practices were insane. With Ed Reed talking to whoever, Andre Johnson or Shockey or whoever it was. Yeah. I mean, good grief. Frank
Ethnic
Gore.
Sands.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, man, I would say that I'd say out of all the ones they had, Ed Reed would be the guy.
Okay.
He was awesome. He was just an awesome player. Hey, by the way, before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Did you text the girl? The woman? Sorry, the woman.
The young lady. I did. We might have been out to dinner by the time you guys listen to this. Probably not, though. Like, I can't even do anything right now. I'm still I'm drunk from not sleeping.
I mean,
it's a gloomy damn day out as we record this. Rain brings me down.
But she seemed willing.
Yeah.
But you're just gonna bail?
Man, well, the problem's never been getting to the batting cages. I have no problem with that. This is like what am I setting myself up for with this? Is kind of the issue.
I mean, I just think you enjoy the moment.
Right.
Why don't you just live in the present for once?
No, you're right.
Live in the moment.
You're right.
Do it like we do. Like we all do. Like Brady does.
I won't go down without swinging. Somebody actually did post on the message boards about something like he ended up, like his wife left or his girlfriend left to go to California or something, and he met her in Tennessee, and sure enough, she ended up back in Tennessee with him, and then they have 2 kids, and they've lived happily ever after.
Yeah.
So.
I see this going down the same track.
Okay. It's got to put a little more effort into it. I will do so after we wrap up the show. Noah Mendell from CaneSport coming up right after this. Wake Up Warchant presented by Zaxby's.
At Birch Orthodontics, they know what a difference a beautiful and healthy smile can make in your life.
They take the time to get to know you and perform a thorough exam so that they can make an individualized treatment plan just for you or your child.
They use the latest technology in a warm and comfortable environment. So whether you are interested in traditional metal or clear braces or clear aligners, they can give you the smile you deserve. They know investing in your smile means investing in your future. And at Birch Orthodontics, they are honored to be a part of your smile journey.
Serving Tallahassee for 16 years and supporting the Noles since forever. Check them out at birchorthodontics.com. BURCH orthodontics.com. Welcome on back to Wake Up Warchant presented by Zaxby's. Joining us here on the program, a friend of the program, I can say proudly, confidently, Noah Mendell joining us from down in South Florida. He does some part-time contributing work for CaneSport. Also, you're the creative force behind probably the #1 station in the entire market. Can I say that? Is that fair?
Yeah, you can confidently say that. Okay. I'm a producer editor at Local 10 News, and with Will Manso at the reins of the sports department, I work in the creative side of things. But we make magic happen down in South Florida and in Miami.
Awesome. So Noah's a friend of the program. I actually worked with Noah at my last stop in Dothan, Alabama. Noah is a proud graduate of the Florida State University. This is probably why you brought me on, because of the side of this is the hardest week that I will probably have to go through in my career, other than when Alabama took on Florida State. Now I'm working for a Miami website, CaneSport, and having to cover the Canes while they face the Seminoles. So I need to talk as if I am a diehard Miami Hurricanes fan. No, just objective. We'll just take objective journalists. We don't need diehard.
Exactly, yeah.
But so do you miss Nick still? Folks, by the way, as much as you think I love Jimbo, I think Noah literally loved Nick Saban that much. Nick Saban.
Yes, but I also thought Jimbo was my father for a while.
Right.
So I went from Jimbo being dad to Nick Saban being my ruthless stepfather that abused me every week. But it was good abusing that I took from Nick Saban.
It was good. It toughened you up. Got you ready.
It toughened me up, exactly.
Yeah, it's been a tough road to plow since Jimbo has left us. But we'll get to that maybe at the end of the show. No, obviously when we talk about Florida State Miami, at least in this season, this iteration of the rivalry, we're looking at things. I guess the main concern for Florida State fans that are listening to this show is basically the Miami defense. We keep hearing about how good the defense is. They're aggressive. I mean, some of these names are guys that I feel like have been there for, since the block at the Rock. I mean, what is it about the defense? I mean, what are some of the players? What is it that Miami's been able to do to keep themselves in a lot of these games? Because this offense has been really, really poor.
Yeah, it really starts at that linebacker core with Shaq Quarterman and Michael Pickney. I mean, Pickney's been injured, but you look at Shaq Quarterman, this guy wears the C on his chest. He's the captain. He is the core of this defense. Everything runs through him, but not just that. This linebacker core, it kind of dips out into their striker position, which is Romeo Finley, which, Manny Diaz, he's a defensive guy. So he wants his guys just flying around all the time. So Romeo Finley, he's more of a linebacker, but they call him a striker. So he'll go out and he'll cover these wide receivers and he'll cover them well. But then you add him in with the linebackers and then a defensive end, and Gregory Rousseau is a redshirt freshman. I think he has 9 sacks on the season, on the year. That front in with the linebackers and then Finley kind of covering a couple of the wide receivers during the game, it's going to cause problems for Florida State. He's not going to be able to keep up with Terry, but Finley, he's not going to keep up with Terry, but the linebackers itself, they're going to be really the hardest part for Florida State to kind of get through.
That's what kind of gives me pause. I mentioned it to Corey earlier in the program. I talked to Ira about it. I keep seeing just linebackers running free and then Alex Hornibrook not seeing things. I don't know. You don't need to tell me they're a predominantly blitz-heavy team or anything like that. But, these linebackers, you talk about them being the core of this defense. They attack. They're not just sitting back and trying to fill gaps. They're going to try to make plays, and they're going to try to create turnovers.
Right, and exactly. And Diaz, he helps out with the defense a lot. And now that, kind of the beginning of the season, they underperformed. So Diaz really has his hand back into the defense a lot more than the start of the season. And they're going to set up schemes where Quarterman and Pickney, who's, again, hopefully going to come back from an injury to take on Florida State, they're going to set up schemes where they look like they're going to blitz and then they're going to drop back. So is Hornibrook going to be able to realize when they're coming at him or when they're dropping back and when the coverage is going to be there for him to find the spaces to hit his receivers? And that's really going to be the question from the start. But, one of the key guys who you're going to need to focus in on is this kid, Gregory Rousseau. When I saw him, okay, he came up after the Virginia game where that was his breakout game. That was his first start of his career. His hands, you could just tell that this guy was big, fast, strong on the field, but then you see him out of the pads and he towers over everybody. He is the guy that's going to cause the most problems on this offensive line for Florida State, and he will get to Hornibrook once, maybe twice during this game. I see him having at least 1 sack, but the pressure that he puts on Hornibrook, or, if James Blackman comes in, James Blackman's a lot quicker than Hornibrook, but Gregory Rousseau is going to get after the Florida State quarterback this week. And then again, you look at the linebackers and they're going to cause problems with the schemes that they draw up to either blitz, to show blitz, or drop back in coverage, or then, send the house and really attack this offensive line from Florida State that has had its problems for the past decade. It's like they haven't been that good for a long time now. So look for this Miami defense to really attack them from the start.
How is this guy like a redshirt, whatever he is? That's your redshirt, this guy at some point. He's a freak. He's a freak.
He's a freak of nature. He is, 6'6", 260. From that point, he's going to cause problems for the next 2 years as a redshirt freshman. He's going to, or I guess maybe another year or so, hopefully, he's going to be the one for this Miami defense that Manny Diaz wants this to be the defense of the 90s. He wants the old Miami back, and he's claiming it to be the new Miami. This kid is as new Miami as it gets, to, apply pressure and not let the quarterbacks run out and contain these quarterbacks from inside the pocket and just let the whole thing collapse.
Noah Mendell from CaneSport, as well as Local 10 down in Miami, joining us here on Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's. Let's look at the offense. This should probably be the part of the podcast that makes the Florida State fans feel a little bit better. The offense for Miami just is not very efficient, nor an envious sort of outfit, I guess you could say. Just the constant juggling of quarterbacks. N'Kosi Perry was on the outs. It was Jaron Williams, freshman, gets the start to get the season started in 2019, and then eventually, kind of flames out against Virginia Tech. Perry comes in, tries to save the day, not quite, and then Jaron Williams saves the day against Pitt. So I mean, we would assume that Jaron Williams, last we've heard, was taking first-team reps. He'll be the starting quarterback. But what's holding the offense back? Is it quarterback play? Is it a leaky offensive line? Is it just not having the sort of skilled players that they had in the heyday? What seems to be holding the Miami offense back right now?
I mean, look, you look at the quarterback play, and Jaron Williams against Florida, he played well. Everybody walked away from that opening game saying he played really well. And then you continue down the road against two kind of washed up teams with Cookman, and then you got Central Michigan as well. And he looked good, but you really couldn't see him, doing that great against, again, another, say, Florida team, or then you take on Virginia or Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, he threw 4 interceptions, and before that game, he hadn't thrown a single interception. And down here, Larry Bluestein, I'm sure you've heard of him before. He's famous in the state of Florida and really across the country. I was listening to him on a podcast, and he said, he was like, I like how Jaron hasn't thrown interceptions, but he also hasn't taken any chances. And that was right before the Virginia Tech game. So then you go to the Virginia Tech game, and I'm thinking in my head, oh yeah, he really hasn't. It's a lot of the dinks and the dunks, underneath routes and screen passes that he's completing, a high completion percentage. He's not making the throws down the field. He's not making hard throws. He's making the throws that he can make. So while he was doing that in the first three or four games, he was doing pretty well against North Carolina and against Florida. Then you go up against Virginia Tech, who has a pretty good defense. Maybe not this year, but in years past has a pretty good defense. And he threw 4 interceptions. And then he gets injured. And then you bring in N'Kosi Perry. And does that screw up what you have going on? N'Kosi Perry won the game against Virginia, so that was a big game for him right there. And then in this past week's game, N'Kosi Perry, he had his struggles. So now let's put in Jaron Williams, and Jaron Williams goes on to throw the game-winning pass against KJ Osborne. So really, what are you going to get from this offense this week? And if Florida State can figure out either one or both of the quarterbacks and contain them, pressure them, and cover these receivers well, who can they rely on, especially at the quarterback position? And if you're going in already not really knowing who your quarterback is going to be against a pretty good defensive effort from Florida State, you're going to see some problems.
It's crazy how similar these teams are, and not in a
Similar.
Good way either, which is
and take a look at the kicking team as well. Miami has had their struggles. They've sent out 3 kickers this year. Bubba Baxa can't hit a field goal to literally save his life. And then you go and you just keep going down the depth chart, and they've gotten down to their 3rd string kicker, the guy that's going to be, kicking field goals this weekend, and they're hoping that he's going to do it. Camden Price, and in the Virginia game, it was Turner Davidson. And after that game, there were players that didn't even know who Turner Davidson was, not to get into the special teams unit for Miami, but it really could come down to a field goal this game. And then you look at Florida State, and I say we as a Florida State grad, they keep sending out Ricky Aguayo to go kick field goals. He's just not getting it done.
Yeah,
I mean, that Wake Forest game was tough to watch him go out there in the rain and miss a field goal. But I think we've gotten past that.
51-yarder in a monsoon. Set the guy up for success, man.
Exactly, and that was not it. But you needed that field goal, and there were field goals that Miami has needed from Bubba Baxa, and he can't do. Yeah. So you start going down the road, and these teams are really similar. It seems, especially I think at the quarterback, and again the kicking unit.
Offensively, man, they got a tight end as always, it seems like. Brevin Jordan. DJ Dallas is another guy that we're assuming will probably be able to suit up and play for them. I mean, who do they have out wide? I mean, Jeff Thomas still one of their weapons? I mean, I haven't done a good enough scouting on them, man. I mean,
it seems as though Jeff Thomas will play. But, yeah, the only other guy that Florida State will have to worry about is really KJ Osborne or Mark Pope as well. Mike Harley has kind of established himself as, a slot guy that Jaron Williams can hit. But those are the guys that, again, Jaron Williams will really look for, the underneath routes and the stuff along the sidelines. And that's where Mike Harley, Mark Pope come into play, and Brevin Jordan right over the middle. Brevin Jordan will have a pretty good game against Florida State this week. I think he's going to go in, especially last game, not doing that hot. I think he had less than 20 yards, only a couple catches. So look for Brevin Jordan to be the guy. And DJ Dallas at running back, he's going to play on Sundays. I think he's one of the kids that you're going to see climb up the draft boards if he can stay healthy. He's quick, he's fast, he's big. Kind of reminds me of like a Kerryon Johnson. I guess, from my time watching him at Auburn, looks like him and can run just like him and can grab some passes and go out of the Wildcat formation as well. So DJ Dallas is a guy to really look out for. But again, out wide, if Jeff Thomas doesn't play, it's KJ Osborne, the Buffalo transfer, that is the only one that I can really see causing problems as a wide receiver for Florida State.
All right. Feel all right about it. All right. So, Noah, how do you feel about Florida State, man? I mean, you don't have to scout us out, but just, watching it from a distance, I don't know where the fan base is split in terms of if they believe in Taggart, if they don't believe in Taggart. I know you were super stoked when Willie was named the head coach, but obviously the results have left something to be desired for a lot of people.
I mean, I remember, and I'll probably remember it until he is, until he's either A, established himself, or B, fired, okay? I'll remember what I said leaving Doak Campbell Stadium the day that he was introduced. How are we going to feel in a year? And that's the question that I left the viewers, and that's the question that I left myself. Is everybody's happy-go-lucky? He gets out of the Escalade. He's doing the chop. He's in it with the fans. Everybody's excited for a brand new chapter of Florida State football, but that's before anybody had played it down. Right. And I think since then, again, like you said, the fan base is completely split. I think there's guys that want Willie Taggart out, and there's guys to have Willie Taggart in. And I think this game is going to be one of them. There's 3 games that Florida State has to win every year, or fans want them to win and have to win every year. It's against Clemson, it's against Miami, and it's against Florida. And if you get 2 out of the 3, it's a good year. If you get 3 out of 3, it's a great year. If you get 1 out of the 3, it's a bad year, because most likely you've lost to either Miami or Florida. And if you lose 0-3, like what we did last year, that's miserable. And if he does it again this year, fans are going to be very upset.
Where are you? Where are you on it, man? Like, where are you Where are you on the Taggart train? Are you still on the Taggart train? Are you looking for the exit on the Taggart train? Are you assembling a coaching hot board?
I am on the Taggart train still.
Okay.
And I guess that was not the most convincing statement that I've ever said. But, I'm on the Taggart train still because I think there is still some things left to be desired for him. I think he still needs to get his guys in place. I'm not really keen on the recruiting trail and who they're recruiting day in and day out, but he needs to find the guys, the quick, the fast guys that can also really catch the football. And you need to get an offensive line that can block your mobile quarterback, and not on 3rd and 9 with 2 minutes left. We're not going to stop with this little read option play action thing. Let's drop back and let's not show the defense that, we're thinking of a run. I've seen that far too many times this year and far too many times last year. It wastes 2 seconds, and sometimes that's what you need to avoid a sack.
What's your favorite Florida State Miami memory?
The block at the Rock was great. My favorite Florida State Miami memory, Dalvin Cook. When Dalvin Cook went off a few years ago, that had to have been because I was there. So, I mean, Dalvin Cook, when I think of Miami, when I think of playing Miami, I think of Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
And even though they lost that game, what was that? That would have been 3 years ago or so. No, 2 years ago.
No,
I was there. That was a really 17. Cool memory when
you weren't there in 17. We were both in Dothan in 17. We were both in Dothan in 17. We were both so there. Yeah, 15 exactly. Was when the field looked like a freaking beach. Like Dalvin was like running down the field and he was like kicking up sand because they like resodded the field or something. Yeah, man, we've been rolling over Miami. Just the last 2 years have been a little bit, down and lean.
Exactly. And again, like I said, there's 3 games that every Florida State fan wants to win: Clemson, Miami, and Florida. Right. And right now we got absolutely demolished by Clemson. Right. Let's go out there. Let's get a win over Miami. Oh man, now you got me going, Aslan. Now you got me.
We're going to stop.
Now you got me talking out of turn.
The Miami folks are going to come and tell Gary to get rid of you. But hey, I heard him on a Florida State podcast talking about the Noles, so we'll let you get going. Noah, hey man, if I'm gonna give you till May of 2020 to get your own podcast, and at that point we'll sit down Mabel Patchen, Rocco DeSangro from WHNT in Huntsville. And we're just going to talk about the 1 year that we all spent together in Dothan. Now, you were there, you and Rocco were there longer than I was, but for 1 year, all three of us,
but
the
man,
stars and moons
I mean,
aligned.
has everybody on this podcast heard about Aslan and his time in Dothan? Have you filled them in on what Dothan, Alabama is like?
Never. I haven't told anybody. I'm like Rosillo sitting on my exit ESPN.
Vermont days.
Yeah, because everyone keeps trying to Rosillo to have to come on their podcast and talk about why he left ESPN. He's like, I'm gonna waste that story on your podcast. But yeah, we'll save for when you get a podcast, or if not, the next year at some point when it's a slow time between basketball and baseball season, we'll just talk about.
Hey, we crushed those Alabama, Auburn, Troy days, man. Those were in those Friday night football. Nothing beats the Friday night lights. We just wish we had a little better competition than what we were looking at.
Oh, yeah. So. Darn right. All right, man. Well, appreciate your time, man. Noah Mendell from CaneSport, part-time contributor for them, as well as a full-time creative guru for Local 10 down in Miami. Thanks for your time, buddy.
Appreciate it, man. Take it easy.
For Corey, I'm Aslan, and thanks again to Noah Mendell for joining us here on Wake Up Warchant presented by Zaxby's. We'll talk to you all tomorrow.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.